Bene, siamo qua con i Ruts DC che hanno aperto la terza serata della 32esima edizione del Festival Blues. Hello guys, welcome.
Hi.
We're so glad to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for a great show. Really energetic and everybody loved it. So you're normally labeled as a punk band, but I mean part of the band was originally in a jazz funk group, and reggae, for instance, has always been since day one in your repertoire. So sorry, but I mean you've always used different musical languages, right?
We have, yeah. I mean, when we started back in the day, we were really influenced by punk rock and the whole movement and the freedom to do what you wanted to do, sort of thing. So I think personally we all had connections with that. But musically, we all liked music before, and I played music before, as our old original guitarist did. So we had some history. So we didn't necessarily, we did write some punk songs, but for other things as well. We always liked different sorts of music.
Sure. And the reggae thing, you know, we all like reggae. We all liked it and grew up with it really in England because it was a big thing, you know. Yeah. And you know, when you used to do the punk gigs, you often used to have a DJ, sometimes like Don Letts and stuff. Used to play reggae in between, and it used to sort of cool down the pace, as we say. You know, because it was quite, the music was like that, the punk music, but in between the reggae, it just seemed work, and we just used to jam it, and because we liked it. And basically, Paul Fox had a copycat, and it was like we used to dub it up and jam a lot, you know.
And you, Lee, you come from a different background, or?
Well, I was a fan of the band back in the day, yeah. And speaking as a fan of the band, which I still can, one of the things I liked about them was the different influences that you could hear in the music. I always thought of them as a rock band playing to a punk audience, but they had a command of reggae. They could play reggae as well, which was terrific. So you could hear all those things in the music, or I thought you could anyway. Something like Savage Circle was very.
It was good playing that today in the sound.
We played a bit of that in the sound check today, and that's an extraordinary piece of music. You know? So there was always different sounds in there for me as someone who was listening to music.
So back then, what is it that made you, let's say, a punk band? The youth, the energy, the looks, or just the ethics?
Not the look, really. It was much more the energy. It's hard to explain, but it was just a huge movement, and it just took off. And England was under quite a lot of pressure, and people wanted change. So it wasn't really so much jumping on the bandwagon as just like it was a can-do attitude. Like we can do this, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time ago now, and certainly in England, the punk movement has become a big thing. But I mean, originally back in the day, it was quite short-lived. I mean, the Ruts with Malcolm only lasted 3 years, you know. And at the end of our 3 years,
punk was already
kind of fading, really, and there were two-toners coming in. Yeah. But then we reformed really in 2011 again, and punk's become a much bigger thing now. But so when you look back in history, a lot of people just think it's about Vivienne Westwood, or it's about Just a Second, but it was much more than that. Right across, certainly in Britain and England and Scotland. I can speak because we were there doing it, and it empowered people who were outsiders. It empowered people who didn't really fit in with most things, and they could go to a charity shop, buy an old coat, and make something of their own.
Ourselves, really.
They couldn't afford to buy bondage trousers or anything, but it did empower them to be. And it was really a thing that reunited. You know, reunited a lot of people and helped a lot of people. And certainly me, and individually, it enabled me, not just on its own, but I've got the courage to do what I always want. I played the drums already, but it encouraged me to quit my job and have a go in doing it. And I've sort of been professional ever since. And even in between the Ruts ending in originally and reforming, I never stopped working, and neither did Sex. He moved to Paris, had other deals. I played with lots of other people, and I'd made a career as a drummer, you know. And it's very nice now to come back and write new, and we're still writing new music. And we did a new album last year, and so it's not a nostalgic trip for us. It's an ongoing thing, you know.
And I think that we're going on, but the punk ethos remains in us in the songs, because we are a rock band, because it's punk rock or whatever, but you know, it is sometimes political, sometimes meaningful, and sometimes a lot of the time relating to outsiders and people feeling alone, you know. So it's never about, you know, women and you know and great. It's always meaningful, and I think we that keeps at the heart of our music, even though the music around changes. You know.
And also, I think that comes through actually in your live
Yeah,
shows.
that's
As
good.
it did today,
I was going to say, as someone who was, you know, I was at school when this whole punk thing kicked off, really, and I never thought I would ever be a musician. I always loved music. I didn't, you know, think about much else.
Yeah.
I loved
And nor did
listening to it. But I never thought, you know, you think there's that bit. I remember Steve Jones saying in one of the Pistols films, he said he thought musicians fell from the sky. And that I always felt they were like these kind of supernatural people.
Yeah.
So you saw the punk thing kind of open the door to people.
The stage and the audience were pretty much on the
yeah,
same
certainly
level.
for someone like myself, I thought, well,
I mean,
if they
after
can
punk,
do it,
yeah.
I thought, well, I can try, you know.
So, as you said, basically, nowadays punk is a big thing, and it has been pretty much institutionalized. Everybody likes punk, TV commercials come with punk music,
Yeah.
but back then it was a different story. I mean, only punks liked punk, basically, yeah.
It was. It separated. When punk started, I was working in a record store.
Yeah.
I used to manage a record store, and it was in the city, and most of my customers were salaried workers. It was very much a collector's shop for people who really like music. So we'd have jazz and prog and different music, and very much my customer would come in and we'd talk about music, we'd play stuff. Have you heard this? Have you heard that? But punk, I remember the first like Ramones album specifically, and
75.
And so I remember even when you played stuff like the Stooges, some people go, "Oh, that's not proper rock," you know.
That's rubbish, yeah.
That's not. And the Ramones really split people, and I thought the Ramones were amazing, a great cartoon,
75
fantastic.
was the first album, yeah.
Yes, 75, and it was fantastic. But I remember in my shop, it really separated.
Yeah.
But what people got really angry about it. What is this? I said, no, don't you understand? This is the roots of 60s and 50s, and it's that. But some people didn't get it, and I think it's in danger of taking it too seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
But it's been that way for like 60, 70 years now, especially with black music, with the birth of rock and roll, degenerate music. It's the same thing right now with what do you call it, with trip hop or all the aggravations of hip hop.
It always gets a little bit generic, doesn't it? You know.
Yeah.
But I met Dave in his record shop. So I used to go in there buying funk records because we were both like funk as well.
Bass,
and playing the other stuff, and then I wasn't playing bass then. I'd never thought I'd be in a band either. And then, he had the Ramones T-shirt, and I said, "What's that?" Ram ones, and he played me the first, and we just went right. And basically tore everything else up. Right, all these records, we'll just leave them over there and listen to everything that's coming out now. It was that strong, It was really good.
And your latest album is titled Counterculture, ? So in the age of social media, liquid music, streaming, podcast, what exactly is counterculture?
Well, that's what we're saying. So whatever happened to it,
it's
in our sort of heart.
And essentially, we just talk about music. I mean, I got into, when I was growing up as a young boy going out and seeing bands, counterculture was bands like Hawkwind and the Pink Fairies the Deviants. The Deviants
we still love that.
And we still really like them. And the counterculture was a big thing, and people protested. And nowadays, people, especially certainly in Britain, I mean, France are doing a fairly good job of protesting. But in England, people, I mean, I'm sure you read the newspapers.
They write angry posts on Facebook. That is,
exactly. They're keyboard warriors, but then nobody does much. So we just wanted to reflect that, and we wanted to, and we just wanted to make a note of it, and so all the icons on the sleeve, they're not specifically about anyone, but we just really started thinking about all the images of counterculture and what they are, and they're just to try and open up. Come on, guys! What are we doing here? Because a lot. I mean, punk rock. I mean, it's big. We're doing the Rebellion Festival again this year. It's a massive festival.
Sure.
And we do it every year. I just wanted. We just wanted to remind everybody that,
they should think for themselves.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because like we do, because we're we're still pretty alternative, really. But we're lucky because we live outside that bubble, really. I mean, you know, we've done this for a long time, thank God, you know.
And I think that with the last record, I mean, there's many different styles of music on it, because we want to make the music. We had to. We wasn't even going to do another album. We thought, what are we going to do? And we had to think of so we really had to think of a concept about what it was. And then some of the songs, they kind of wrote themselves. And we decided that as long as lyrically, we have to sing about the underdog, we have to sing about, you know, if you're any kind of artist, you have to sing about the problems and a little bit, not to be depressing, but your music doesn't have to be dark. You can still play joy. Sure. Music's still a very uplifting thing, and can be. So I guess, and eventually we came to the title of the album, and that really helped us make it and finish it, really, you know.
So you've toured with the Stranglers before, right?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well,
we've done two big tours.
All right.
2 big tours, and we went to Australia, and
and New Zealand, we went with them, and
I think we got offered the first tour because we're a good support band, very good.
Yeah.
And JJ quite liked it, and I think we got the rest of it basically because the band actually enjoyed having some of them was good, and we became friends, really.
And they did, and also I've got to say, to give them a big up, because when we did the support, you know, a lot of bands, they say, right, turn everything right down, but they never did that. They always they finish very early, make sure we get sound check, turn everything up, and we're good, and we do in 45 minutes, we can, and the audience,
sure,
and we can really kick their arm, you know,
yeah.
And they luckily they like that, so we like that.
Some
if we have a
bands
band, wow, they're really good, they make you better. You
It's
shouldn't
good to
think,
get nervous, you know,
it's good to be nervous,
you know, push the envelope,
push it up, and when you have the two bands together, it makes for a better show for everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely. So thank you guys so much for taking the
Most
time,
welcome.
and just see you around. So we're waiting for you for the next album. And the next
Great,
Absolutely.
okay.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Well, Pordenone, we've had a lovely time. We had a lovely time in your town. Very, very good people. Lots of nice, stylish Italian people. Lovely food.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille.
Grazie.
Grazie.